All right, so the first one, let's just kind of take a recap here. All right, so the first question here is how to identify, right, when this kind of looks like a signal line or an average line here. When the average line goes above 0, has a little bit of a pullback, and then identifying when that signal line reverses back up, starts moving back up, or the opposite of that, right? So identifying this reversal point here. So let's see, let me find an example. So I'm going to use the MACD signal line here. All right, so at least I have one for a downward market movement there. All right, yeah, so we'll identify, looks like it's right about there. Yeah, somewhere around there, the signal line. Yep. All right, so it's moving down, then we get a little pullback, and then it reverses down again. So, all right, so the first thing we need to do is make sure that our signal line is below the 0 line, right, the entire time. So that is going to be a threshold, right? That 0 line is a threshold level. So let's connect this in, and all right, so we're just comparing the MACD, and actually this is going to be, well, actually, yeah, NinjaTrader calls it the average line, so there you go. It's the MACD average line there, and compared to the 0 line. All right, so let's plug in our MACD indicator here. All right, do a little search for the MACD. There's our MACD, and we're using the average plot. There we go. All right, so and as far as comparing to the 0 line, right, that is the default here for the threshold solver. So if we open up the threshold rules there, right, yeah, you can see 0, is the default threshold value there. So, all right, so we don't have to do anything there. And so there we go. So when that's signal, or when the average line is above 0, then we get a long output. When it's below 0, right, we get a short output here. And yeah, so like for example here, right, this pullback doesn't work because the average line did cross below 0 there, right? So that'll get filtered out here. But let's go back to this one here. There we go. All right. So first one established, and then the second criteria is going to use an inflection solver. So, all right, inflection is just the mathematical term for a change in direction, right? So on a chart, obviously things don't change from left to right, but they do change from up to down. So the inflection solver is just identifying these reversal up points and reversal down points. So, all right, and actually let's get the MACD plugged in here. All right, there's our MACD indicator. And again, we're looking at the average line. All right, so there we go. So now, yeah, so there we go, right? So there's our average line. Boom, it reverses down. And when it reverses up, right, then it reverses down again, then it reverses up again, right? So all those reversal points there of the signal line. So let's name this properly. There we go. All right. And so now we need to combine these together here. Like so. And there we have it. So there is our reversal point. And it looks like I was almost right. I was one bar off. There we go. And there's another right reversal point, another one. And if we go over here, right, this reversal up didn't happen because the MACD line was below the 0 line when it reversed up. So there we go. So it got filtered out. So there's number 1. And let me pull up the image here and get to number 2 here. All right, so this time we just want to make sure that a oscillator here has been above the 0 line for X number of bars or below the 0 line for X number of bars there. Yeah. And so this time I will use the MACD histogram, or as NinjaTrader calls it, the difference, right? So the core test here, or the core condition is the difference above or below the 0 line, right? So I can actually take this one, let's click off of that, there we go. I can take this solver, right, because it is comparing the average line above or below 0. So I can copy this and save myself a few seconds and paste it there, like so. Connect that in, connect that in, there we go. And this time we're going to change it over to the difference plot there. So let's go into the indicator and select the difference plot there. All right, there we have it. So when the difference plot is below 0, right, we get a short, and when it goes above 0, right, we get a long, and of course it's flip-flopping all the time there. So yeah, let's make sure that it is at least above the 0 or below the 0 for at least 5 bars there. And so to do that, we're going to need a function node here. And we'll use the look back node to do that. So let's connect that in. And we're going to turn the displacement off. So let's set that to 0. All right. What we're going to use is the look back. And so we'll set that to 5 or whatever, however many number of bars, you want to make sure, right, that your indicator's been above or below the 0 line there. And then the mode here is we want it, above or below for a minimum of 5 bars. So we're going to set the mode to minimum. And then I always like to name this so I know what this look back node is doing there. And so there we have it. All right, so if we stretch this out there, right? So when it crossed below 0 right there, right, that was filtered out. There's no short. So right here, there we go. The difference was below 0 for 7 bars. So 2 of those, right, were identified. Yeah, so on and so forth. So, all right, so there it is. It's all that number 2 just required the look back node there and set the mode to minimum, and then however many bars, that's what the look back period is that determines how many bars your indicator line needs to be above or below the 0 line there. Okay, and now number 3 here. Yeah, so number 3 is just identifying the slope of, any kind of oscillator line there. All right, so let's see here. I'll do that. I'll use the MACD line here, the blue line. All right, so for that, let's grab a slope solver, connect that in, and let's plug in the MACD line here. Well, actually, all right, so now let's plug in the MACD line. Now I got the name in place. All right, and so with the MACD line is the first plot, so it's already selected for us. All right, and there we have it. Pretty straightforward. So now, if you want to filter out, any slope in the opposite direction, right? So say your oscillator is above 0, so you only want to know when the indicator is sloping up when it's above 0, and you only want to see when it's sloping down when it's below 0. Then we just need to add, right, one of these 0 line filters here, right? So let's see here. I think I can still paste. I can. All right. So I still had this threshold solver in the Windows clipboard there, so I could just still paste it in there. There we go. So we'll switch this over to the actual MACD line there. So let's go into the indicator and just change our plot to the MACD. There we go. And last thing is we just need a AND node. Connect both of these up, right? And as soon as I connect up our 0 line filter there, you'll see everything gets cleaned up a bit. Yeah, so there we go. So there's our oscillator line, right, sloping up when it's above 0, right? When it slopes down, right, there's no output. There we have it. Now, let's see here. Let's take this another kind of... No, never mind. Actually, what I was about to do actually doesn't make sense. So, yeah, never mind. All right, so there are all of the 3 different filters there. All right, yeah, so here's the follow-up. So Tony's asking, yeah, so what if I want to use these filters on a higher time frame? So, yeah, all you need to do, here, let me stretch open the solvers panel here. All you need to do is right there, you can add a chart. And a chart, right? So it's a chart if you add a different instrument, right? So if you fill this in with an instrument, then it becomes a different chart. But if you leave the instrument blank, right, then it's just another time frame there. So I'll just put in 15 minutes for now. And then all you have to do is take your solvers and drag them down onto the 15-minute time frame, like so. And there we have it. So now this, or I should say these solvers here for this MACD are now running on the 15-minute time frame, like so, right? And as always, NinjaTrader does not allow you to add secondary time frames instantaneously anymore. Well, actually, it never really did. But with NinjaTrader 8, it's even more strict. So whenever you add or remove or modify secondary time frames or charts, right? So remember, you're always going to get this little message from BloodHound reminding you to, hey, you need to reload your chart so that way NinjaTrader can load in that 15-minute time frame. So there. All right, let's close that and reload, and there we have it. All right, so that is our MACD line sloping on the 15-minute time frame. There. And there we go. So once the market has been moving up for long enough, then the MACD line is now sloping upwards above the 0 line on the 15-minute chart. All right, so I'll just leave it in this state here.